Hello Internet, and welcome to a new tutorial. As you know, Bitwig 4.3 is out, and there has been a lot of videos talking about the new features that came packed with it, so I'm not going to add another video over these videos. Instead, I thought, okay, we're going to make an atmosphere patch that, as the title says, made out of sine waves, and will utilize one of the most interesting features, in my humble opinion, that has been packed into the new Bitwig. Now, this feature that I'm talking about is the Convolution Reverb, and I've always looked at convolution reverbs as a traditional reverb, and I think that this was wrong. I mean, yes, you can use it as a traditional reverb, but when you look at it as an effects unit instead of a reverb, I think this changes the whole point of this unit or of this reverb. So yeah, enough with the talking. Let's get into it and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Now, before we dive into this tutorial, if you'd like to support the channel, you can consider becoming one of my Patreons, buy my presets on Gumroad, or leave a like, comment, subscribe. Things like that helps the channel a lot. Content like this is posted every week, and special content from Patreon. Okay, so here we are in Bitwig. Here's Polygrid. We're going to create our patch in it. Now, as again the title says, all you need is sine waves and Bitwig, so the base of our sound will be some sine waves. Now, the patch is a little bit inspired by additive synthesis, so we're going to start with a simple sine wave, and then we're going to add harmonics to it, make it interesting, etc., etc. So here's our sine wave. Okay, nothing too interesting. The ADSR envelope in here, I'll just set it to full sustain, just a tiny bit of release, tiny bit of attack so it won't click. Basically just like a gate on and off. Okay, nothing too special. Now, how we're going to make this sine wave interesting. Now, we have here in the shaper section a module called Chebyshev. And I think this is one of the most interesting shaping algorithms they have for this type of usage, for sure. If I'll add it to my sine wave, when I'll start cranking the knob in here, listen to what we'll get. Okay, pretty interesting. Now, if I'll take my sine wave in here a couple of octaves lower, let's say minus 24 semitones, we'll get this. Pretty interesting, something that resembles more a psychedelic atmosphere. I don't know if you can follow me with this, but like, you know, when I hear these kind of tones, I directly imagine an atmosphere out of it. Anyways, we need to make this a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to take another sine wave in here, oscillator, and I'll add a mixer module in here so we can mix both of these sine waves. And what I'll do is that I'll detune the second sine wave just a tiny bit. And I'll take down the volume of the mixer in here, because just like if you're using like a hardware shaper in here, when you input a high level signal to it, it'll start saturating or shaping in this case. And I want to control the shaping via this knob. That's why I turn down the mixer volume in here. So now we have this. Now, as you can hear, we have like this beating, and this beating comes from the detuning that I've added. I'll dial like less detunings. Now we have this. And maybe give it a little bit more volume. See, we've started saturating a little bit too much, so I took it down a little bit. So now we have this. Pretty interesting. Now, what I'm going to do, I'll add a filter. For this, I'm going to use the new Salon-Key filter because the new Salon-Key filter has new shapes with new flavors, and I think they're awesome. And some of you might know I really like bandpass filters, so I'm going to use this bandpass 6 18 decibel per octave filter. Now, before using it, I'm going to set the Q limit to something like minus 14 decibels. Now, the Q limit in here determines the limit to when the filter will start self-resonating. And, the higher you go, the faster it'll self-resonate. So I'll leave it to minus 14 decibels, okay? And now we have this. Give it some more resonance. Okay, that's too much resonance. Okay, pretty cool. We can try the second flavor of the gain distribution in here. I think the first one sounds better. Okay, pretty cool. Now we've lost a lot of the characteristics of the sound. So for this, what I'm going to do is that I'll add another shaper, and in this case, it's going to be the wave folder. So when I'll crank the wave folder a little bit, we'll get this. Okay, that's too much. Let's go with a bandpass 4, basically 12 decibel per octave filter. We'll get this. Better results. Maybe try more detuning. Okay, that's too much to my taste. Pretty cool, right? Now, let's make it more of an atmosphere with a little bit more attack, a little bit more release, something like this. Okay, perfect. Give it more shaping. Okay, nice. I'm going to give it less detuning. Perfect. So now what I'll do, I'll add this little AD envelope in here so I can recreate this movement that I did with my hand, but with the envelope. So I'll send the envelope to the frequency modulation input in here. I'll crank it a little bit. Give it some attack. Let's see what we already have. Not enough. Slower. Cool. Now we can actually trigger both oscillators in here. So every time they will receive a new node, they will start the cycle from the same position. And like so, we'll always get the same results. So I've just turned them on. Now we have this. Perfect. I'm going to add some chorus to the sound to make it a little bit more lush, and for this I'll use the Chorus Plus module. Now we have something that sounds like this. Perfect, we can try different flavors. I'll stay with the X2, but I'm going to turn down the volume a little bit after the ADSR so it won't clip that much. For this, I will use a volume module, just like so. Okay, perfect. So now we have our one-shot kind of atmosphere patch. Now let's get to the interesting part and add the convolution reverb. So I can use it like a traditional reverb, and actually the default preset demonstrates that pretty well. But I think this is not that interesting. What I'm going to do in here, I'll load a sample that I've created. It's a clap that goes to a big reverb, and then I've glitched the results. So if I'll add it in here, check the results that we will get. I'm going to turn down the width volume a little bit because I think it's going to clip, and now we have this. I'll add some pre-delay in here, and actually I'll abuse it a little bit, like go to the maximum right away. Do you hear these glitchy artifacts inside of this reverb tail? Just because the sample was glitched, and thus the convolution reverb is acting according to. And I think this is extremely interesting. Like, it opens up a whole new level of possibilities inside of this module, or inside of this reverb, if that makes sense. Now, let's make this patch a little bit more interesting and actually ask the AD envelope in here to modulate the pitch of both sine waves. So I'm going to make it modulated with like 12 semitones, not more. Now we have this. Okay, what I'm going to do in here, I'll take the main ADSR envelope, I'll set it to just an AD like this, and I'll make this AD envelope a little bit faster, something like this. Now we have this. Okay, that hurted my ear, so let's add an EQ in here and correct that. Can make it darker a little bit with this knob. Perfect, and now I can make things more interesting with a delay plus module in here, and we finally have ping pong delay in Bitwig, and now we'll get something that sounds like this. We can even actually turn off this delay in here and add a comb module in here, turn it down a little bit, give it some feedback, turn down the mix. Now we have this. Okay, it's the filter. Okay, it's the filter that has a lot of resonance and maybe opening way too much. So I'll close it down a little bit, less resonance. Now we have this. Maybe a slower attack. So I hope you found this interesting. This patch alongside with the impulses will be available for my Patreon. So yeah, go check that out. And yeah, with this is the end of this tutorial. I really hope you've liked it. I really hope you've learned something new. And yeah, have a great one.